Only God knows I love you. I don't even know you. Only God knows. I know you. And I love you. First. What's happening? I'm First Letter. And this is the first episode of my new show, Everybody Got a Story. I started this show because I wanted to shed light on some of the extraordinary stories of extraordinary people who ordinarily don't have an opportunity to tell their stories. We have people like that among us every day in our communities. But because they don't have the money or the fame, nobody takes the time to just sit down and truly ask them questions. And so that's what I want to do. I don't want to try to get the big names and all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of shows that do that, plenty of podcasts that do that. What I intend for this to be now and into the future is a platform, again, for extraordinary people. I don't want to call them ordinary people or regular people because they're not famous, because these people that you will see on this platform are indeed extraordinary, and they have extraordinary stories. It's just that ordinarily they don't get a chance to share. And so I could think of no one better to start it off with than my mother, Mary Wells. Without her, I have no story, but in her own right, her story is incredible. It's a story of great tragedy, perseverance, education, whether it be educating herself or educating children, being a mother, being a daughter, being my everything. So without further ado, I bring to you the first episode of Everybody Got a Story. This is the Mary Wells interview. So Mama, you were born in Jasper County, Mississippi, right?
Jasper County, Newton, Mississippi.
Okay, so Newton, which is in Jasper County.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you remember about that area? I know we've been back down there for family reunions and stuff like that. So how would you describe that area of Mississippi?
Bleak, it's an area that I didn't find comfortable because I didn't know anybody down there. The people that I was being introduced to, I didn't know them. Mm-hmm. Didn't grow up down there. Had no idea that I came from down there other than when I just going down there for family reunions. And basically that was for my uncle, my mama, and my aunt. Mm-hmm. We children didn't know. We were just there.
Okay. Well, now,
and it was a bad place because that's when my father got killed and I never knew it.
Okay, we're going to get into that. Now, let's talk about how Granny, this is weird. You told me that Granny and her cousin ended up marrying two brothers, right?
Yeah, they were first cousins.
And so that was what, Sonny's mama?
My aunt, Lil Ann, as we call her, Lil Ann, mm-hmm. because there was 3 or 4 Anns in the family. So Lil Ann and my mama was Nancy. Both of them were Hilton. Mm-hmm. And they married to Gibson. Mm-hmm. My dad, Leroy Gibson, and Lil Ann married Jesse Frank Gibson, mm-hmm. my uncle. So Lil Ann's children and I are double kin.
Now, Mom, I remember Grandmama telling me that the way that your pops won her over was by riding his horse over there to see her. Have you heard any other good stories or fun stories about your pop?
They told me that he was very crazy about my mama. Mm-hmm. And he used to, well, he called her Nancy, and when she got baptized, he told the preacher he better not hurt her or let her drown or anything, 'cause he's gonna come in there after him. So he was,
I never heard of that.
that one. Then he was very protective of his mama. He jumped on his daddy and beat him up for jumping on his mama one time. He almost killed her. And my grandmama was calling her, Ward, don't hurt him, Ward, don't kill him, Ward. And so everybody was just afraid of him. He didn't take no bull off of anybody. And that was it. I mean, just it. He was just crazy about my mama, so they say. And he liked to ride horses. He could do tricks on horses. And
what was his plan with the horse?
He could go jump down and jump back up on him and turn around and ride him. And he had said he was going to take his family to Hollywood because he was going to make some money and become a big star.
You see where I get it from, see that? All right, now.
And he loved to dance.
I like to dance. Can't Daddy dance happy?
I love to dance too, so.
It's going to be nice because we're.
All right, now you alluded to the fact that that he was indeed murdered, and I talked about that in the song briefly. In a song, I can't tell a whole story. It just, I only got a few minutes and stuff to talk about. I did used to share the story with my students, because my students used to love to gamble, like my student Charles Dickens, what up? And I used to tell them I didn't gamble because of what happened to my grandfather and stuff like that. So if you can you kind of touch on what Granny told you about that situation? 'Cause I think that's so unique in your story. And I said before to my fans that if there's a movie about my life, I want the movie to start with that. Because I feel like that's the event that really start to shape our family. We lack strong men in our family, and until me, really. And then I feel like the murder of my grandfather kind of set that up.
Well, my mother told me about it later on in life. Like, she didn't tell me as a little girl because I grew up thinking that somebody else that she had married was my father. I didn't know anything about my father until I was in the 11th grade. And she told me that she was with him. They were at a house party, I guess, and they were gambling. My granddaddy's cousin's husband got into it with another man, and my daddy was trying to intervene, but he had turned around and started walking off, and the man took the knife and stabbed at him just as he turned around, and he hit him right in the heart with the knife. And my mama had me in her arm, and I guess everybody started calling the ambulance or did whatever they could or what have you, but she had to get me home. And that's all I heard about it. I heard about it from her because she was there. And she shared the story with his siblings.
So when did you learn the truth then? Well, how did you learn the truth in 11th grade?
Okay, my grandmother was a Chapman, Lily Bell Chapman, and her brother, oldest son, had heard that I was in Mississippi, Canton, Mississippi. And now this is a story that they told me uh, later in life. I was in my 60s or something, because I never knew that they came there. I don't remember. They say that they came up on it was called Owing Street then. It wasn't Martin Luther King. But they came over to my grandmother. They came over to my mama's house, and they said they found me. And they saw me. But I never met my grandparents or my uncles and cousins and all of them until I was in the 11th grade. I went over there on a bus, and they picked me up in Birmingham, Alabama, and took me over there to meet my real family for the first time in my life. And maybe I would have had a better life, and I wouldn't have had to go through some of the things I had to go through as a child growing up. I would have had a real family. I never had a real family other than my mother. And that was it.
So when you finally met them, how did they respond to you? How was that meeting them for the first time?
It was weird. It was different. It just didn't... I was glad to see them. I could see the similarities. And one of my aunts that I finally met from Chicago, I saw we look like twins.
That ain't Peaches, right?
Peaches. But it was just different. I just met them, and they were a fun family. My uncles liked to drink, gamble, laugh, have fun, chase women. Yeah, they were just typical family, I guess, because I'd never been around them.
So what made Grandmama move up here then, from down there from Jasper County? What made her come up this way to Kent?
My mama, her oldest brother, and her sister, Ina Mae, were deserted, left with their daddy by their mama. She left him because he had attempted to kill her. And then he had killed a man, and he went to prison. They lived with various family members there, and a lady in Chicago that I finally met raised them for a little while and a half, and a white woman, which was their great-grandmother. And I recently learned that my grandmother was a Creole from New Orleans. Now, I guess she got there and she married Mr. Hilton, Abe Hilton. But after she eventually escaped him, left him, and she moved to Carthage, Mississippi. And I understand that my mommy found out where she was, and Mama was pregnant with me, and her brother's wife was pregnant with his son. We call him Snuffy, but his name was Winnie Abe. So it's about 6 months between each one of us. But my grandmother was going to have a baby, and she was a businesswoman because she ran a cafe. She owned the only black cafe, maybe the only cafe there. She was going with this white man, and she and this white man was running the cafe. She was pregnant, about to have a baby, so they started visiting her, and one of them stayed there. Ayana asked me, while Mama went back home, and Ayana stayed there until she had the baby. And when she had the baby, the white women ran her out of. Well, they said she couldn't keep that baby because he was white. So she gave him away, and the white women ran her out of Carthage. And when my mother found out where she was in Canton, my mama and Uncle Bud followed her to Canton, and Ayana May had married a man, Indian, half Indian, from Carthage. So she stayed in Carthage. And my mama and Uncle Bud ended up here.
So you telling me stuff that you ain't never told me.
Whitney, you never asked me.
As I have. So how would you describe Grandma? I describe her as the sweetest person of all time. How would you describe Grandma?
My mama was the sweetest person of all time. She was always smiling. I never heard my mother gossip. I never heard her say a negative word about anybody. So she was my role model. She was the strongest woman I know, but she was just abused, but she had to do what she had to do in order to make a living for me. And I think if I had to say one of her weakest points was, and it wasn't a weak point, because at that particular time, if you weren't married, you were considered as a whore. Well, a woman, if she wasn't married, everybody knew that she was going to be doing something. So maybe that's why she had to marry whoever she married in order to have a living. But she always worked. My grandmother, after she came to Canton, she became a seamstress. So she's still a businesswoman. So my mama learned how to sew. She started sewing, so she had a trade. She was kind, sweet, not the best educated woman, but she always wanted to get an education. That's why when they had a program from Washington, they had where adult people that didn't get a lot of education could go to school at night, and she started doing that in order to learn. She always wanted to learn, and she couldn't help me with my lesson because she didn't know it herself. But she did the best she could with me. And like I said, she was my perfect role model if she wasn't to anybody else. I molded my life after 4 women. One was my mother, Jesus' mother, Mary, Sister Vera Marie, and Sister Thea Bowman. Those 4 women. And I think God sees that in me. I see it in me.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, the reason why Grandma didn't get a lot of education is because she had to drop out to help be a sharecropper, right? I know that's what she told, that she had to pick cotton. She had to basically go and...
Well, that's what I said. The situation back then didn't allow...
A lot of black kids had to do that.
Didn't get a lot of education. I learned that my father had a first grade education, and that was all. So all the other things he learned were, as we call it, street knowledge today, or common sense. Common sense and what you learn from life.
So what did you want to be when you grew up then? Because you were a good student. and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So what?
Well,
But initially, what did you want to be? When you were my daughter's age, when you were my son's age, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I just wanted to be alive. I wanted to survive. At your daughter's age, at that particular time, I wasn't thinking about a career because I didn't even know the word career.
But you know how she wants to be a doctor, or one
I'm
day she
saying
wants to
that
be a dancer.
your daughter's 8 years old. At 8 years old, I was very mean.
Mm-hmm.
When I started school, I was a very angry girl, and I stayed in fights. I remember getting in a fight with a 12th grader, and I literally beat her. I got in a fight with a boy. I got a scar on my leg from I rolled on a piece of glass and blood was running down my leg, but I was after him, and they were trying to get me from him. But I was just angry, an angry child. I was an angry child. I never picked cotton. I didn't have to. My mama picked cotton, and she had a job, a domestic job of cleaning up white folks' homes and doing. But later on, she got a job in an American tent factory sewing. You said what I wanted to be. Later on, in high school.
Okay, in high school then, what were your intentions?
Okay, in high school, okay, when I got to maybe the 3rd grade, I started taking education a little serious, and I knew back then, we didn't have really educated teachers. It was anybody in the community that could read and write a little, and then in high school, in the upper grade, we had someone that had gone to college, because at that particular time, even when they went to college, they didn't teach black kids how to do anything other than really reading, writing, a little math, and gardening. They had to do personal hygiene, how to keep their body clean and their hair clean, and how to do weeding and hoeing and doing things like that. Maybe that's why a lot of old people grew up with that thing of wanting to. My mama always wanted a garden and things of that nature. But when I got to maybe the 6th grade, it was a change in me. I could see education-wise. I had developed a beautiful penmanship, and a lot of teachers had me to write the names of the students in their roll book. They had me grading papers and recording grades, and I started just carrying myself as if I wanted to pursue an education, and I had other role models then, because I saw ladies that looked different than me. They had things that I wanted, and how I wanted to dress and how I wanted to be. So later on, I saw a picture of a lady in a magazine with a suit on. It was black with a briefcase, and I wanted to be a businesswoman. That's where I got the idea of wanting to be a businesswoman. But I always had an earning or a gift of wanting to get an education. I never thought about sharing it with anyone. And I had a love for law. Back then, my friend my classmates and I used to practice law together in the classroom. The teacher would let us do that. We put on cases and what have you. And believe it or not, he did become a lawyer. And to this day, I love stories centered around the law and what have you. But I wanted to be a business person, and I kept that dream all the way through college because I majored in business administration, and I got a job at keeping books at a public accountant's place, and at one of the colleges I were attending, Tuskegee, I had a job in the English department as a secretary.
Weren't you in the band in high school?
Yeah, I started in band from 8th grade, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. I was in there 5 years.
And what instrument did you play?
I played second clarinet.
Would you say the arts are important in a school? 'Cause a lot of schools are, because of the lack of funds, they're trying to get rid of arts and stuff like that.
Oh no, children need art. They need to be able to play in the band. They need football. They need, I was in the choir. They need the choir. I love to draw. I did my first picture in the 3rd grade, and I did it for my teacher. But then that was something that I just picked up. I love to look at something if it's beautiful, if it appeals to me, and I like to draw it. Kids need that. They need a way out because not everybody is gifted and want to be a teacher. I remember one of my students used to love to draw animals, horses especially, and he ended up going to school to pursue a degree as being an animal doctor. They called them
Veterinarian.
And one that loved to draw little cartoons. He was very good at drawing, and like a picture that's doing this right now, and you could flip it and you have the characters to move, like he would draw the different hand movements. So and he was very good at that, and that was something that he could go to school in. I taught drama, and that was another thing that they need in the schools, because that gives the child an outlet too. I had some that fell in love with acting, and when they got into acting, that was a way to express some of the things, and then they were happier in their other classes, and their grades began to improve. I even had a student that was so in love with music, all he wanted to do was play a saxophone. He wouldn't do anything else, but when he left me and finally went where he could play music, all of his other grades went up, and he played to this day. That is his career. He's been on TV, and he's very famous playing saxophone. He's a primer.
Okay. Now you alluded to the fact that you went to Tuskegee, a legendary school that was founded by Booker T. Washington. What made you go to Tuskegee?
I fell in love with it because of Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver. I was inspired by those two men that I learned something about black men that did something that was very outstanding. And I found out that he went to Tuskegee, and I found out that was a legendary school that started way back, and kids that went to that school came out very productive in life. And I just fell in love with the school. And when we went there on a field trip, I felt even more so in love with it because I had an opportunity to visit George Washington Carver's laboratory, and everything in it was just as he left it, and I had to touch everything that was in there. And Booker T. Washington's statue that was there, I had in his grave, it's right on campus too. I had a picture taken with my hand on his grave, and then I climbed up on the statue, and he had the statue with him standing there and a slave, and he's unveiling the slave, and it's called Unveiling Him to Knowledge. And I took a picture with that, with him unveiling this slave to the field of knowledge. And I just love the history.
So how'd you end up at Jackson State then, Mom?
Okay, now that's a long way. That's skipping a long way. Okay.
Well, fill me in then.
No, I'm gonna. At the meeting, before I even came to Jasper, and that's the name of, ironically, Jasper County, Jasper, Alabama. Okay, I understand my grandmama and my granddaddy came there. She followed her brothers, the Chapmans, up there. So, but when they came, I sent a picture or something over there of me. Willie Pearl had a picture of me. I don't know how he got it. Anyway, he showed it to a guy named Marvin Wells. And Willie Pearl told me that he said, after seeing that picture, he told him, "This is going to be my wife." Now, I had never met him. But when I did go over there to meet them, Willie Pearl and Marvin Wells, all dressed up in his army, he was in the Marines, his Marine outfit, came over to my grandmother and granddaddy's house. Then that's the first time I met him. Okay, and
so basically all this went down before Jackson State and all that kind of stuff.
All of this is a whole nother.
Well, I was getting ready to ask you all that anyway, so you can just go. I was getting ready to ask you how y'all met and how was it being a military wife and all that kind of stuff. So you can just get into that.
Well, I'm going to say I didn't start at Jackson State until a lot of things had happened before. I got married, came home, had Tracy before I came home, got pregnant with Curly, started back at pursuing my education. Had gotten a job and all of that, and then that summer I started at Jackson State.
Okay. All right then. Well, let's go back then. So you said you and Marvin met through this guy Willie Pearl having your picture.
Yeah.
And you don't. And he's not a member of our family.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Willie Pearl Chapman is my cousin.
So you sent the picture to the Chapmans. Or did you send the picture to the Gibsons?
Maybe I sent it to the Gibsons.
And somehow he just got hold to the picture.
But see, they had been over there and they're the one that found me. Remember? They found me in Mississippi. His Willie Pearl's brothers, two of his Baby and Larry. They came over to Mississippi, Canton, Mississippi, and found me. So maybe I gave a picture to them. I don't know. But I don't even remember them coming.
See, I'm asking about this, Mom, because this is weird. Because in today's society, a whole lot of relationships start from a picture through these phones and stuff. You post a picture, you like the picture on there, if it's a girl, usually girls will like a boy's picture if they think he look cute or whatever, then the boy contact him. Or a dude will like the picture and then he contact him through the
that
phone.
That wasn't the case.
Yeah, I know that 'cause that didn't exist back then. But I'm saying it's still like that's the old school Instagram. Instagram is the site where you gonna do them and post pictures today. So it was like an old school version of Instagram love story. Okay, that's crazy. Now you said he was in the military.
He was in Marines.
Marines. All right. Now when you saw him in the Marine get up, did he approach you and tell you?
No, he just they came over and I had to be introduced to Willie Pearl too, because I'd never met him. My cousin, Neva, my aunt, my daddy's baby sister, introduced me to Willie Pearl, her cousin, and Marvin Wells. I was not impressed by the uniform or Marvin Wells.
Why weren't you impressed? You mean just the looks or his personality?
No, first of all, he looked like a white man, purity white, blue eyes, red curly hair, the whole thing. If you didn't know that he was black, you wouldn't have known he was black by looking at him. Now Willie Pearl is by Choco. But Willie Pearl's mama was half white. They married my uncle, Chapman. So that's why Willie Pearl was Yoko. But Nora, her Aunt Nora. But and when he walked off, he was switching. That turned me off.
What you mean he was switching? Maybe he was just trying to strut more. He probably was just trying to show out for you or something.
I just stood on the porch and looked at him walk away, all the way around the curb. It looked kind of funny with the switching. That was.
So how did he end up winning you over then? If he didn't impress you at first, then how did he end up? He said he was gonna marry you, and he ended up married. So how did he pull that off?
Oh, while I was over there, they had a dance at school. And I had a blue dress.
So you went to school over there for a little while?
No, I went to the dance. I went.
So with some
Uncle
of the kids.
Charlie was in high school.
Oh, okay.
Neva had finished school, but I went to the dance with Charlie. And I was very little. I was so little I was afraid. I was ashamed of myself. I never had a lot of confidence in thinking that I was pretty. Everybody else thought I was pretty, so they say. But anyway, I went to the dance, and in the process of dancing, it was somebody. I twisted my ankle.
How did you twist your ankle?
I don't know. I had on the little heels trying to dance, and I twisted my ankle, and I had to hop over to the chair, and he came over operating on my ankle. That was it. He was trying to fix on my foot. We just started talking.
So if you had never twisted your ankle, it's quite possible that no marriage and the 3 kids that result of
No, nothing. We talked, and then he came over the next day, and I think we exchanged addresses. He got my address, and he started writing me. And when he left, he went to Vietnam, and so going to service country sounded like it was lonely. I started writing back to him, and for the length of time, the year or two or whatever, I wrote it. Sent him cookies, sent him another picture, and he had a big picture. So he was a sergeant, and one of his guys could draw, and he drew a picture of me on a sheet of paper this big and that wide. Beautiful picture. I had to fold up and fold up. I should have put it in a frame because it was just like me. It was beautiful.
Now you were still at high school while he was serving?
Yeah.
So were you still dating this guy named Mosey Cole at the time?
I was with Mose for a little while, but see, Mose had 2 other girlfriends too. And he ended up, that's another story.
Oh. Yeah, I know he went to Vietnam, and
The first night over there, he was killed.
so how was Marvin when he came back from Vietnam then?
Very disturbed. I didn't know it at the time, but I was at Tuskegee then. My uncle then went to pick him up at the airport or something, and I rode over there with him, and they stopped at a light. Little kid was shooting firecrackers. They stopped at the light. He hopped out of the car, went and grabbed the little boy and was shaking him to death. And they had to grab him. I guess it was like
Called PTSD.
I don't know what it was called. Ollie. Hey, he was just shaking this boy.
They called it shell shock back then.
Oh yeah, shell shock. And I've heard of that. But then he used to have nightmares. And then to this day, he could not watch an army picture.
So how was, when y'all eventually got married and everything, how was it being a military wife? I know you had to go, live on a base or something in North Carolina and stuff like that?
At first, he told me I could stay at Tuskegee, and while he finished up his term in the service.
Now,
And
hold
I
on.
went on and married him.
Did he volunteer for the service or was he drafted?
I don't know.
Okay.
All I know is all four of the boys, 4 out of 5 boys went to service, and each one served in a different branch of the service. Air Force, Navy, Marine, and what's the other one? All of them went to service except Melvin.
So, the plan was for you to finish at Tuskegee.
That was the plan.
So what happened?
He reneged.
Alright, so, y'all are married. He served out his time in the military. You got my sisters, Tracy and Curly. And you said you had a job. Now, was your first job doing the accounting thing? Or did you do that while you were in college?
I did that when I was in college, but when we came home, I knew some people, and they knew me because I grew up here. And it just so happened that it was we had a white principal at the school, and there was a lady that she just left the job. I think she was sick, and she went on leave because she was sick, and they needed someone to sub for her until she came back. But and I got the job. I was invited to come and do the job, and I did it. I went over, and it was not in high school, so it was either 6, 7, or 8 grade, 6, 7, or 8, one of them. Anyway, the lady never did come back. She never did come back, so I ended up with that job the rest of the year.
Why did she come back?
I don't know. I don't know, and I don't think they knew. But she just never did come back. And so Mr. McRaney, that was his name, this man, he was from the coast. Anyway, he was so impressed with my job that he invited me to come back the next year. And I didn't have a degree in teaching. In fact, I didn't have a degree in anything yet. But instead of going to a classroom, they had me to work with some, what is it called, Upward Bound or something. Anyway, it was working in the office with Mrs. Dixon. And they had a program for kids that, it was a special program funded by the government or something. And so I ended up being the typist in there and getting the tests ready for them and things of that nature. Anyway, I had a job. It was a job. Now, the year after that, I was invited to come back and work with Mrs. Scott with special education kids.
Now, is this the Mrs. Scott that went on to be the first black mayor of Canton?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And so I was her assistant in the classroom. These kids would come to us at least once a day, and then they would go to their regular classes. So while I worked with her, I was pregnant with Curly. And that was my experience of working with kids that were slow, but they needed help. Something, I don't know what they have a different name for it today, but I worked with her that year, and that was an experience. I remember there was one boy in there that he never would go to anybody's class except ours. That was the only class he would come to. And just, we had to be tough, and we had to, make them mind and everything. Now, I had 2 experiences in that classroom that I'll never forget. One is, I was afraid of the boy, but I had to be tough and pretend I wasn't scared of him. So I saw the principal walking down the hall, so I got really tough, and he just fell in love with me for some reason. But but the child is dead today. He was in a car accident, and that year we had 2 kids be in an accident, but the other one lived, and he fell in love with me too. He found out where I lived, and I don't know where he is now, but he got scratched up and cut up real bad. But he just fell in love with Miss Wells. Miss Wells, you were the best teacher I ever had. And I was not the teacher per se, I was the aide, teacher's aide. But that experience, and then I was pregnant with Curly. One day, they knew I had a fear of snakes. They put a rubber snake in my drawer. And I sat down at my desk and opened the dress, and I saw that snake, and I flipped over backwards in the chair. My legs went up, and I hit the floor. And I'll never forget it. I saw, oh, and Miss Scott was just, first of all, she said, "You all right?" And then she just burst out laughing. Everybody was laughing except me. I was so embarrassed. You can imagine my legs going straight up.
Yeah, I mean, every teacher got one of those. I had embarrassing stuff happen too. So I mean,
but that was just cruel.
That was.
From there, that's how I end up at Holy Child. Mrs. Scott heard there was a lady over there that was getting ready to go on maternity leave, and Miss Scott knew about it and she recommended me, and I went over for an interview, and I was invited to come over and teach. It was 4th grade. So I still, at that particular time, I was going to school. In fact,
and Holy Child was founded by nuns.
Yes, it was only one black teacher over there. That was Mrs. Gilbert. They were called lay teachers, so she was the only lay teacher over there. All the rest of them were nuns, and they wore full habits.
And this school was founded because these sisters...
There was a need for education in Canton.
In this segregated community.
The black children were not getting a good education, and that is true. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot of things down there teaching school. I learned more than the kids were learning probably, but they didn't know it. Was
Sister Thea there when you first got there?
No, she was in La Crosse, Michigan, La Crosse, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. She was teaching up there.
So when she finally came back, then because I know you've always told me that's like
I just said I got the job, but let me tell you how I kept the job.
Okay.
Because see, there too, I was invited to come back, so they didn't ask the lady to come back. In other words, they were impressed with what I was doing.
At Holy Child.
Mm-hmm. So I was invited to stay. Mm-hmm. Every year I was invited to stay. And then they moved me up from 4th grade to 6th grade. And then 6th grade, and one year I had to teach 6th and 7th graders in the same classroom. I would teach 6th grade over here for a while and give them something to do over here while I was doing. And when I went to teach the 7th graders, the 6th graders were involved academically. Eventually just lost 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Went to 8th grade. Then I was invited to teach 8th grade. I stayed there 27 years.
So about when then did you meet Sister Thea while you were teaching it?
Sister Thea came in and out, and she came later on to stay because her parents got sick. So she came and got a job in Jackson at the diocese. And she stayed there to take care of her mother and father. And then one of them passed, and she had the other one to take care of, and then the other one went on, and that was it. She went back to La Crosse, but then she invited us to come up there, and that's where I took a class at Viterbo.
You took a class there?
Yes.
I mean, you took your students there, or you enrolled in a class?
I took a class. It was about 5 or 6 of us.
How long were you there? Are you long enough to take a class?
In the summer. You have summer classes.
So where were the children? Where were Trace and
No, they were at home with my mama.
For the whole summer?
No, this didn't last a whole summer. You know how you all have workshops and you get credit.
Oh, you went up there for a workshop. Okay.
But it was considered as a class, and I got credit for it.
I know you're talking about CEUs and stuff.
Okay.
Okay. All right. You know now, a lot of folks are pushing for Sister Thea to be a saint.
Oh, she's already been canonized.
No, she hasn't.
Yes, she has.
No, she has not, Mama.
Well, they told me she had. They were signing a petition because there are 6 schools named in her honor, and one of them were in Paris, Texas, where I took you. Mm-hmm. One was there. But numerous.
She got one. I taught at one in Jackson.
Oh yeah, a lot of schools are named in her honor, and people had to sign a petition. They had to scrutinize her whole life from her conception all the way up.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They had to find out if she had any dealings with a man, or in school, or boyfriends, and all of that.
I'm saying from a personal standpoint, I'm looking at her right now on your wall, mm-hmm. and you gave us a painting that was given to you, and she overlooks us in my room at my house. So I know this woman is meaningful to you. What were her qualities?
Tracy as her godchild.
Okay, so what qualities did she have that makes people revere her like this then?
First of all, she loved God. She showed that in her actions and the way she lived her life, and she was an educator that taught people how to praise God. She taught the Catholic ministers how to preach to congregations and make them feel the Spirit and loosen up, as she says. Loosen up in the church and make them feel and come alive instead of doing the same old mass. You know how dull a mass can become. You know, and I could write one right now.
So she basically brought some soul to the Catholic Church.
Yes, and that's what she was teaching. It was a title for it, and she was teaching school up in Wisconsin. Though she was actually teaching rich white folks' children mm-hmm. in a college, Viterbo College. And when she was in Jackson, she was teaching ministers, the priests. Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you stayed at Holy Chapel 27 years, but you also taught at Canton High School, and all together, we combine that with your early years that you talked about previously. All together, you did over 40 years. What in the world made the average years for a teacher is like 3 to 5 years, and then they burn out. That's why we have a teacher shortage in the country right now. So what in the world compelled you to stay in that field, or what allowed you, what about you and perseverance, what about you allowed you to go for over 40 years when so many teachers don't last 3 to 5 years?
Okay, now I told you I wanted to be a business person. Mm-hmm. Got a degree in business administration. Mm-hmm. I tried business after I retired to try it, and it didn't work out because I was sick and I didn't have the energy. But once I got involved in education.
Now you also just so cause we need. I know you got the bachelor's in business administration, but you did go on to get your.
I'm going to explain that.
All right. All right.
Once I got involved in education, and the sisters had me to take that workshop with the professional lady they had. But anyway, it was in education, and working there at Holy Child, and I already had a minor in English. I majored in business administration with a minor in English. So all I had to do is finish so many hours to get my master's in a field. So I just, they encouraged me to go to school. They paid for me to go to Wisconsin up there. And Miss Scott paid for me to go to summer school one summer. Each summer I went to school until I finished. Well, I finished and got my master's. Then I started working on my, finished and got my first degree. Then I started working on my master's in English education. I started taking educational courses since I was teaching. And so I was working on trying to get certified as a teacher. Mm-hmm. So that's when I had to take the National Teachers Exam, the written part, and I passed that. Anyway, I went on and got my degree in English education. But while I was at Holy Child, I discovered I had another passion, and that was writing, producing, and putting on plays.
So is that why you didn't quit? Because you wanted to do the plays?
No, it's not why I didn't quit. It was just something else that I found I had a talent for, and I never had an acting class or any kind of training for it, but it was just something that developed in me that worked out. And even Sister Thea and she wrote two plays for me to put on, and Harry Watson, who was the music teacher, we just started putting on plays. I guess she saw this talent in me too, and so every year I was over the Christmas program. I either wrote it or I got to play and then just wrote the program and brought the other classes together and put on a Christmas play. And then one year, after changing principals, we got one principal by the name of Sister Kathleen, and she saw my talent, and she wanted me to write a play for her. So she gave me this book to read about Fannie Lou Hamer, and I read the book, and she wanted me to write a play and put it on. And I did. I wrote the play. I produced the play. The characters, the kids were just beautiful. And the sisters aided me in I had them to work with the kids on reading, enunciating, and getting all the words right before we actually started putting the production together. So I did a lot of overtime work at that school and even at the other school, but I never got paid for it other than through Jesus Christ. I did other extra work, and that became one of my passions other than drawing. And I kept the bulletin boards done because I love to draw, especially biblical pictures.
So would you say stuff like that?
And let me add that once I did that play, Sister Kathleen literally cried. I mean, tears, real tears. Mm-hmm. She just cried. it was so for real. It was so real. The kids actually did. The little girl, her mother was the principal at Nichols at that time, but she had that part down. I mean, all of them, and I can say, all of my productions were good except one, but it was just a minor thing. But I can say the kids actually made me love what I was doing.
So what was your favorite one that you put on there? Because it's almost Christmas time. I remember y'all doing the Christmas play and having them boys sing the Temptations, John.
Oh, at the end of every Christmas play, when I got to high school, the kids, I had boys.
Y'all did that at Holy Child too. I remember Tyrone and Jerome Howard.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite
Temptation
song.
Silent Night.
That's my favorite song during this time of the year. And I've got to pull it up because I've been listening to blues all day. But at the end of all of the Christmas plays, that was the theme song.
So were the Christmas plays your favorite to do? Or was it the Michael Jackson thing? Or was it the Black History thing? Did you see Michael
Jackson play? Mm-hmm. That was a good one.
Or Medea.
Medea play was good. And Fannie Lou Hamer. I like those three. And the one that I wrote about the From Africa to America. That wasn't the name of it, but I wrote that one where it actually started in Africa, from Africa to America, and I drew a picture of Africa, and they had a name, The Passage.
The Middle Passage. The
Middle Passage. Mm-hmm. I had the chain coming through there, and then over here I had America, and I like that one too.
I think I remember that one a little bit. I was real little when you did that one. Well, but just to get back to some of that, because this is important, because there's a lot of folks that I left the profession to teach. I left the profession of teaching for business, but I still believe in the profession. I believe that it's the most honorable profession. It's the job that grows all other jobs, and so I got a lot of youngins that go into the profession. So I want to be able to encourage them not to burn out and stuff like that. Cause I'm out here hustling, but I'm not gonna tell everybody to quit teaching. But I want to be an advocate for teachers, and I know I get rich, then I can make legislators listen to me and help them. But before I can get to that point, I want to know why you didn't quit. Because some child that's going into this, one of my youngins that just graduated from college or something, they about to go in there and deal with some bad kids. They about to go in there and deal with some principals that they don't like, and deal with some colleagues that probably be hating on them. And you dealt with all that kind of stuff. Parents that got attitude. You dealt with all that stuff for 40 years. Mm-hmm. So was it just taking care of us is the reason you didn't quit? Or was it something else that kept you in there all that time?
Needing a job was one of the reasons. I had a family to take care of, and lastly,
but you could have went and got a job somewhere else, Mom. You were educated, pretty woman, speak well, dress well.
Let me finish what I'm saying.
Okay.
See, I had a passion for it then. I loved putting on plays. I loved teaching up until the very last year, and it wasn't the kids. It was kids with the attitude. They had an attitude because they saw the principal treating teachers wrong and treating them not human-like, unhuman-like. And when I saw this, and they wanted to demote me from 11th and 12th grade to 9th grade because they wanted the kids to pick up what they didn't get in junior high. They wanted me to teach them penmanship, and they wanted me to teach them teaching them how to read was a good thing, but these were ninth graders, and ninth graders going through a transition that today that was not back in the day. I have to admit, we had better students then because we had better parents then. And today it's a different world because of different parents and grandparents. Grandparents are not there for those kids like they used to be, where the kids could fall back on grandparents when they didn't have the parents acting up. Now, grandparents want to party with the kids, and the parents want to party with the kids, and the kids don't have any stable root or anything to just clinch on to and to have a good parenting figure in the household. The kids are looking for somebody to help them survive, and they find that in gangs or a group. A gang will say the gang will help me, and they go from, we have them at school for maybe 8 hours, but they go back from school back to the street because a lot of kids don't even want to go home. And I've had kids to write about not having a father figure at the house, and some that had the father figure at the house, but he wasn't a father. He never talked to them. He would go to work, he'd come home, he'd go to bed, get up, and go to work. You no interaction and no parenting, no conversation, no love there as seen. The love was probably there, of course, but kids, and I picked this up just reading a paper. You get into a child's mind just by letting them write. You learn so much about what's going on with their life and their families and how they feel about the world. And that's where I got the information about them. Kids love to learn. Kids are eager to learn, and they look for good role models. And I would say to any teacher, if you have it in your heart to love a child, and because they are unique, every child is unique, just hang in there if you can and be a good role model. And you just can't be that what they want you to do. You go to school, you learn how to teach, and you need the freedom to get in the classroom and actually teach, instead of somebody coming around with a pen and checking to see if you're up on your feet, and if you're looking at Tom, Dick, and Harry's paper to see if they're writing right or if you're talking right and what have you. You need the ability to really get out there, and like I could do this in my drummer class, and that was the end of the day. That was kind of a relief. And teach. If you love to teach, teach. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't teach. If you want to teach, get out and do it. Be another Joe Clark. Do it.
Now, so it seems like the most satisfying thing, or one of the most satisfying things you did during your time as an educator was put on your plays, but what was something else that you found gratifying during your years as a teacher?
Working with the children, getting inside their minds, becoming a part of them, and letting me become a part of their life, and they becoming a part of my life. A lot of children today, I see them, they, Miss Wells, some will hug me. They can't now because of what's going on, but they tell me you were the best teacher I ever had. And I just said, Lord, every group that leaves me, I don't feel that I've taught them enough. Because I call them a different crop. Every year you get a different crop. You know, some crops are better than others and some did. But you never feel that you did enough. And I feel that when they left me, I didn't do enough. Are they ready for society? I want them ready to be able to survive in this man's world. That's ever changing. And so the satisfaction of dealing with and loving children. Seeing the satisfaction of the eyes light up when someone really understands what you're trying to get them to understand.
How did it make you feel when the young lady honored you with the poem in Washington, or you were nominated in Washington?
That was Angela Jackson. That she had to write a paper or give a speech, and she told them that I was her best teacher, and that was at Holy Child, and that was the 6th grade.
And then didn't some young lady write poems about you and stuff?
Oh yeah, she wrote 3 poems. She always sang hummed a song, and I did. At Holy Child, I was always humming. I was happy. And a lot of people in Canton call me crazy, especially with my degrees, a master's degree. I could get more money. I could get this and that and the other. And I was working there. Really, I didn't realize it until I left how much
we were broke. We were broke when I saw one of your pay stubs. That's when I finally.
I really didn't look forward to the paycheck. I didn't even know when it was time for it. When she brought checks around, I was surprised because I fell in love with the kids and what I was doing.
Well, you scared me away. That's why I didn't want to be a teacher, because I would see you in there stack of papers and grading those papers all night, and it wasn't a laptop like this. Like when I was teaching, I put my grades in. No, one year I had to do like you did. But once I started teaching high school, I could just put all the grades in electronically. But putting all those grades in by hand and stuff.
It had gotten easy then.
No, I remember you with the grade book. I remember
because if
somebody didn't do the assignment, you'll put a 0 and put an X in it. You put the X in, so if the parent tripped about it, you can show it. That X means your child didn't even attempt to do the work. I remember all that. And I'm like, my mama was at work. I was at school. My mama was at work. And then I get home, my mama's still in there working. You still in there. You won't watch your soap operas, but while you watching your soap opera, you in there grading papers and stuff. It's like your job. You did not have an 8-hour job. No, you had like a 12 to 16-hour job.
But it was a satisfaction to see that someone got a good grade. It really was. I don't know. I loved Holy Child because of the praying. I like going to church with them. I like putting on programs in the church. And then when they gave me the 8th grade, I like doing the graduation, inviting speakers to come to inspire the kids. And I love to do ballet. I love that. That picture up there represents one of my passions that I love to do, even at Tuskegee in the halls. I remember putting on a little program for the kids on the first floor. Ballet. I love to listen to the music and interpret the music with your mind and body and soul.
So what was the most difficult thing about teaching then?
Lesson plans.
I think most teachers would probably say that's a top 5.
Really, lesson plan. Now, it would be all right if you know the individual is not going to really look at it or whatever, but you find some little nutty person that's going to actually look through it. You really have to be on your P's and Q's. But I like the way Sister Kathleen divided the book up. If you have a book and it's got 1,000 and some pages in it, and she divided by 4, and you're supposed to be from right here to here at the first quarter. In the second quarter, so many pages you're supposed to have covered.
That's a pacing guide, basically.
Yeah. I like that. Mm-hmm. I really like that.
Okay, was it Was anything else tough other than the lesson plans?
Oh, okay. I said dealing with some disagreeable parents. For instance, I'll never forget one night there was some parents teachers conference when the parents had to come and pick up the report cards, and I had a father to come in and threaten me, and I thought he was going to hit me, but it was because his child was caught cheating, and he got an F on it. I don't know if he had been drinking or not, but I didn't change the grade. I stood my ground because he was literally caught cheating, and I caught him.
You did that for 40 years. Couldn't have been me.
Oh, well,
I
had to be professional. Father Luke, the father that was down there when I left, gave me some good advice. You know, he said, stand your ground, but be polite, always be professional. Say something nice about the child at the beginning before you start laying in all the bad stuff. But he came in on me like that. He came in ready to fight. And I just kept my cool and stayed in my seat.
Yeah, he would have got his fight messing with me that day then.
Now some men came in making passes. I mean, really making passes. Want to know my number, and I'm here trying to talk about your child, and you're still talking about, I would sure like to take you out to dinner, blah, blah. Now, that in my worst year of teaching was my last one because they were just mean to me. I was old, and my last year at Holy Child.
I don't even know if I should ask you this because I have no idea what's going to come out your mouth.
Well, I already know what it is. Go on and ask.
What's a funny story about me that you would like to share with my fans?
I came home one day, and I was getting ready. Was I getting ready to use the tape, or were you in there looking funny or something? Anyway, this tape had a popsicle stick in it.
So the VCR?
The VCR. The VCR. And I had tried to get it out and it was messed up. And I asked you, did you do this? And I'm trying to make you tell me, did you? And you're saying, no, it was a little boy that looked just like me that did that. That's what he said. And I knew somebody looked just like me did that.
There is somebody that looked just like me. I saw him in college. I walked into the McDonald's, Joe and Ray and them, they'll tell you. Walked into the McDonald's, this guy was working behind the counter, and I stopped. Because I thought they had a mirror up in McDonald's. And he stopped and looked at me. And we both like, light skin, slim, big eyed, long neck, everything, to a T. So Marvin probably had a baby down there too.
Marvin was hoarse, but he didn't. He wasn't
this guy looked just like me. Spitting image of me, like I was terrified. Yep. Sure
well, and another one, you told me before you were born that every once in a while, like when I'm eating something, it hit you right on the head and you could feel it. While in my stomach, you could feel me eating some stuff and it would hit you on the head.
Did somebody try to buy me?
Oh, yes. Let's see who was in the hospital. We went to the hospital and we were sitting on the outside there. And this limousine pulled up to pick up these white people. This white lady and this white man looked very rich. And they stopped. And just was amazed by you. They just loved you. And they asked me if I would sell you to them. And they promised to give you the best of everything. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. You will have the best life ever if I would just sell you to them.
Well, I'm glad you didn't. Those people probably would have made me their personal slave or something.
Adam, you were a toddler.
I know. Mom, I was an infant. Sound like I was an infant, a newborn.
No, you weren't an infant. You were a
So
toddler.
what we were doing at the hospital?
We were there, I guess.
For another reason?
Yes, we were sitting on the outside. Maybe Mama was in there visiting. Maybe Mr. Willie was in there. I don't know. It was the VA, so it had to be Mr. Willie was in there, I guess.
Oh, you made the right decision. These people do stuff like that. Slavery still go on there, or they would have sold me to somebody, or
They wanted to buy you, Adam.
they might have bought me and sold me.
Why they gonna buy you and sell you?
Sell my body parts. All that kind of stuff happens today. These kids going missing. Before this pandemic hit, one of the biggest stories in the country was child abductions.
Okay.
And they selling
parts.
They selling body parts. They're selling kids into.
Adam, you were high yellow, and I had you dressed real pretty to really set out your color. You're darker than you were then. You were high yellow.
That
and
don't
your
mean they
hair
gonna treat
looked
me
like
right.
it was curly, really good, and I had you looking pretty.
So you thought they were serious and were gonna treat me right and give me a rich life.
Oh yes, and I wondered a long time. I said, did I do right? He would have had a better life, maybe.
No, Mom. I keep telling you to quit saying that. You made the right decision. Okay, we finna get this money. I ain't worried about that. Okay, because through struggle now I can relate to everybody. See what I'm saying? I can relate. If I went to them people and just, even if let's say best case scenario they're gonna treat me right, that would have been weird. First of all, a black boy. Eventually I was gonna figure out I was a black man, and then I would have been messed up in the head like President Obama was messed up in the head.
Oh yes.
And then I wouldn't have been able to relate to the people of the struggle and stuff like that. So it's good.
Okay.
That's good. You did a great job with me. You didn't stop it. All right. Last question. Now, my most popular song to date is Honoring You. Now, you know it's called Mama Sick, but most of the song ain't about you being sick. The hook says Mama Sick, but most of the song is about
Mama is sick.
I know, Mama. I know.
You all that medicine I'm taking.
I know, but most of the song is a tribute and telling your story, really, and thanking you for taking good care of me. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
You right for not selling me to no rich people, because I just said in the beginning of the song, wasn't for you, I would have sold dope. I'm very attracted to that lifestyle. You know that. I love The Godfather. I love Paid in Full. I love all that gangster stuff.
I'm amazed. I am really amazed, and I asked God, how did I do it? And I couldn't have done it without Him.
But what I'm saying is my most popular song is about you. Okay?
Okay.
And from the reaction to that song, the comments and all that kind of stuff, people let me know that they are hurting. Like a lot of people, either their mama passed on already, people saying their mama passed in their arms,
so sad today.
Or they had
a lot of people can't even hold their mama or even kiss them or anything. They can't even be with them because of this pandemic.
Yeah.
And every night I see they give a tribute to the ones that are gone on, and most of them are my age and older. And right here in Canton, Curly's friend, her grandmother just passed, and the irony is her son passed this week, the same week. Her son, he was a hero. He rushed into the house and got a lady out. The house blew up, and he went in there and got her. He's a James, and he passed away from this COVID-19, and his mama just passed yesterday. He passed about 4 days before her, and both of them dead now. And I knew him, and both of them go to church. We're going to church back here. She was 103.
All right, so with that in mind then, and knowing that there's a lot of people that can't be with their loved ones this holiday season, and like I said, a lot of my fans absolutely love that song that I made about you. What's something that you would say to them? Because I say every one of the comments, I always respond to them and give them encouragement and stuff like that. But what's something that you would say to them at this holiday season? And I know you love the holiday. When I was growing up, you always loved Christmas, and we would decorate and songs all throughout the house, especially Temptation Silent Night. Temptation Silent Night on repeat. And drink eggnog and all that kind of stuff, and make me watch A Christmas Carol. But there's a lot of my
and that's one of the plays I love to put on too, the Christmas Carol.
There's a lot of my fans that can't do that right now with their mama. So do you have an encouraging word for those that's dealing with that, and for those who have to be like a caregiver? There's a lot of them that have to be a caregiver like I am to you right now. You know what I'm saying? So do you have anything inspiring you can say to them?
First, I'd like to thank them for watching the video, and I appreciate their comments about the song. I love the song too, and I thank you for doing it for me. And I'm so happy to be here to hear it and appreciate it. And I would say to anyone that has a mother that's still living, just love her, because you only get one, regardless of what kind of mother she is. I mean, you can help bring her out. If she's one that is not a true mother, you can make her be a true mother by showing her a lot of love and affection. And that helps. And it's hard bringing up children on your own, being a single mother after being divorced. But I was fortunate enough to have someone that was my backbone, and that was my mom. So if you don't have, if your mother is still living, love her. Show her that love. And if she's already gone, remember the love that she gave you. It is still with you. It's in your heart. When your mother leaves you from this earthly body, she is not leaving you totally. She is always a part of you. She's in your heart. She's in your mind. And she's looking out for you. If God is, let her be that angel that would always look over her children and love the children. And because they know they can't stay here forever. Everybody has to go. But when they go, they're not gone. As long as you love them.
All right, we're going to end it like that. I think that's well said. I appreciate you, Mama. See, it wasn't that bad, was it?
No, it wasn't. Thank you.
I'll give you a little smooch.
What?
Give you a little smooch. So that was my interview with my mama, Mary Wells. And I hope y'all gained something from that interview. I hope that her story gave you some kind of inspiration to keep fighting through whatever you go through. You heard her talk about her pain and just the fact that her father was murdered in such a heinous way, and growing up not knowing who her true father was, and finding that out later in life, and she didn't have any siblings. It's just her and my grandma. You know what I'm saying? But she was still able to fight through that. And my grandmama wasn't educated, but because she had to drop out of school to be a sharecropper, dealing with this racist system, dealing with Jim Crow at the time. But my mama rose up to have a master's degree, and she started working on a specialist. And raised 3 kids by herself. So, and educated other folks' kids for over 40 years. So, if she was able to make it, you can do it. And for all you educators out there, or future educators, I hope you look at her and gain some inspiration too, and just heed her words. Heed her words. I did it for a decade. Okay, I did it for a decade before I got out here to be an entrepreneur. But she did it for over 40 years. And to be quite honest with you, she wants to go back. I won't let her. She wants to at least sub or do something. I said, Mama, your time, if you put in your work for trying to change the world, it's my time now. I strongly encourage all you real ones out there to sit down and talk with the ones that you love, especially the elders. Because when those stories are gone, they're gone. Hopefully you saw that I learned some things about my mother just in that interview that I never knew. And so you got to talk to your people. Talk to your people. And especially all you real ones who are dealing with so much during this holiday season. Because I know many of you gravitated towards me and my music once you heard that the song Mama Sick. I just want to say to y'all that if your mother has passed on, I know that hurts. I haven't lost my mother, and I know that hurts. I lost my grandmother. I think about that pain. That still hurts me to this day. I can only think about the pain of losing my mother. So I feel you. You understand? I really feel you on that. But I say, long live your mother. Or if it's your father, long live your father, whoever you lost. If you're like me and you're being a caregiver to your parent, keep fighting. You feel me? Keep fighting. God bless you for the good work you are doing. From me, my mother, and everybody at IG Entertainment, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I love y'all. I appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure y'all like the video. Make sure you share it with as many people as possible, because we need more and more positive stories like this out. Make sure you follow me across all social media platforms. And make sure you shop with statement tees. Every t-shirt you wear makes a statement. But again, I appreciate y'all watching. And remember, everybody got a story. So listen. 1.